Hey there, it's me, Dot. Welcome to The Stitch of Fate, a Vampire the Masquerade V5 podcast. Since we'll be portraying vampires who have left their mortal lives behind, expect that they are going to make bad decisions and deal with difficult themes and content meant for an adult audience. This content may include, but is not limited to, body horror, murder, gore, extreme emotional situations, and graphic images. Remember, don't hold those actions against the players, just the character. Take care of yourself, and take a break if you need it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of a little podcast project we've had in the works for a while. Another campaign of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition, this one called Stitch of Fate. I'm very excited for this one. There's a lot of cool stuff coming down the storyline, but we're going to go around first. Everybody's going to say hello. We're going to see what we're doing, maybe what we're playing a little bit, and then I think it's best we just kind of dive in. So I'm going to start first. I'm just going to hand it over to you, Dot. Hello. Good to see you.
Hi, Mathis.
Hello.
Hey, everybody out there in the audioverse. I'm Dot. I will be playing Vera Volkov, our Toreador, who's a little bit more of a thorn than a rose.
That's exciting. How about you, Bub? Welcome to the crew, and what are you going to be playing?
Happy to be here. I am playing a figure named Duke, who is a Ventru, and he is a bit of a past life that he spent a fair amount of time running from.
I like it. And then we've got Mark. Good to play with you for the first time, Mark. What will you be playing?
Well, thank you for having me. I will be playing the Nosferatu, known as Max. He's rather taciturn.
I can't wait to see Max in action. And last but not least, Josh. I'm excited to be playing some more with you. What's up, man? And what are you going to be playing?
Hi, I'm Josh, also known as Gaming FTL. I'll be playing Sean, a fresh, young, and ambitious little thin blood.
I'm excited to play with Thin Bloods, like mechanically for the first time as well. That should be a lot of fun for all of us. Yeah. So we're going to jump into this. Myself, I am Mike Mathis online. I do a bunch of different things. I will obviously be the storyteller here. No pressure whatsoever. And we're just going to jump into this world of New York City, modern day, and see what this coterie is up to. But first, a little mood setter. The camera opens up with a torrential rain pouring down from the skies. A sliver of the moon only occasionally visible for brief moments through the thick presence of storm clouds. But as our gaze drifts downward, that torrential rain gives way to an endless sea of neon lights, laughter, and chatter, mixed with the ever-present car horns blaring in the background, combating with the sound of splashing water on this night in particular. For a moment, though, piercing through all the chaos, we hear a shrill shout as a mother slowly loses grip of her young son, pulling away, determined to go gawk at the billboard for Tim Burton's new Batman movie. But we don't linger there. Continuing, we slip by, tucked away from the mass crowds in Times Square, in a forgotten alley, one of countless indiscernible alleys, where the silhouette of a rather plain-looking man leans slightly forward over a shorter silhouette, before his hushed voice can only just be heard over the chaos of a rainy New York. Stability's a fool's lie. Something we tell ourselves we have to. It's to shield our egos, I guess, from the primal fear that chaos is everywhere. So we force stability, implement rules, abide by them, make it seem like we have control. And so within chaos, then, lies freedom, and yet... He leans a little closer, clearer now that both of his hands are gently brushing against this other's lips, rhythmically, in a repeated motion. It's in that forced stability that you have to go to. It's that forced stability that's gonna keep you safe. It's the only reason I'm even doing this now. Just to make sure you see another night. I can't... Both of his hands end up withdrawing, A simple string dangles between his pinched fingertips. The rain had finally begun to withdraw, and the moonlight peering through the more keenly visible sky. The other, the girl, her lips are now visibly sewn shut, and her eyes are closed. I'm sorry. He finally finishes before leaning gently and kissing her forehead. He turns and begins to leave, the girl slowly disappearing behind him. And as all fades to darkness, the swelling of an upbeat song fills that void. The darkness is lit faintly by neon lights and billboards again, toting the newest technology in smartphones before the camera falls again and finds a familiar face and a stitched mouth. A small grin crawls across those lips before the music swells further, and suddenly we shift. Darkness, and then the rhythmic thumping of a club, deep nestled within modern-day New York. The double doors swing open as a neon sign says The Succubus. As we pour into this particular club in New York, this belongs to Vera, one of our characters. Vera, what does this club look like? How large are we talking, and what kind of people do we see as we pour in?
The club is actually an old vaudeville theater that has been converted. It's squeezed between two other buildings in kind of an unnatural way, so it's tall and long. And the lower floor has been cleared of seats to make way for dancing. The stage remains, and the upper floor, the mezzanine, converted into a smoking lounge for more VIP clientele. Dark, and everybody here comes for their own reason. They could go to any other club, but this club has a particular taste.
Moreover, it's actually nestled away from what others would consider the rack, a common feeding ground where almost all the other clubs lie. Yours is a little bit more independent, and those who want to go here are coming here for a reason, not just wandering the sidewalks and stumbling across and seeing if they can find their way in. But up on the second floor, as you described, is usually where we would find our dear Vera. But instead, we press through the mash of bodies in the club, the smell of sweat and tears, and maybe even a little blood here and there, if it's allowed. But that is the reason we continue past. There's a back door that disappears away from the rhythmic music, and as the door is shut and it becomes mute, we find our way down into a basement. A room where we find 4 bodies surrounding one on its knees. Now, what do each of you look like? We'll start with Vera. She's probably the first one that our eyes are drawn to in this rather plain room with maybe just a table and a couple of chairs tucked away in the basement of this area. But Vera stands out for more than a number of reasons. What does she look like?
Vera is a rather tall woman, made taller by the fact that all of her shoes are designed around ballet slippers, so she is always on point at all times. Everything she wears is as if she has been dipped into a vat of oil and simply shook off. She is always the perfect silhouette. And tonight she is draped in black leather and never entirely shows her face. Beauty is her weapon, and so she can only let it loose when it needs to be. And so always in a half mask or a veil here, a large hat brim to cover her eyes, never fully showing who she is.
And how old, obviously it wouldn't be obvious, but how old is Vera at this point in time?
Vera physically is about 22, give or take, but she is decades older than that.
Next to you would probably be a larger looking, some would say man, some might say creature, but his hand is physically grasping the shoulder of this person who is on their knees, standing over him. Max. What does Max look like? How does he hold himself, and what does he look like on this particular night?
There's a faint ripple in the air as Max lowers his obfuscate. Max could never be mistaken for human. He is clearly something else. He stands about 6'3". His frame is broad and muscular, but it's his face that marks him as something else. Bat-like, animalistic, feral, huge pointed ears, pale purple skin, eyes like a beast, glinting yellow with faint light. His hand tightens on the shoulder of the figure, and you can hear bones start to crack.
Come on, fuck!
Yeah. I busted his arms and legs up pretty good.
Yeah, I can't fucking move him, asshole.
Yeah, that's the idea, shithead.
And as that foul words pour forth, next to Max is someone a little bit meeker, smaller, a little bit more human looking in all kinds of different regards. Sean. What does Sean look like, and how is he reacting to what is happening before him?
Sean is about 5'8", white 20-something guy who he looks like he could be snapped in a stiff breeze. He is a little bit gaunt, like all arms and legs, and you imagine him getting cold because basically all he's wearing is a tatty, probably used to be a t-shirt, but now it's a tank top with like ash stains on it, and it probably even used to be a much brighter color, but now it's like a dark green. It's at this point you realize that most of what he's doing is trying to ignore one of the other members in the room and rolling himself a cigarette of some sort, just kind of fiddling with that and like listening intently to the guy being tortured, and like with a little twinkle in his eye, a small smile on his face, and just sure me.
And the man you're ignoring, whose gaze you purposely avoid consistently, stands right next to you. A man by the name of Duke. Plain looking to some, but there's more interesting underneath. What is Duke looking like right now?
Duke looks like he's walked from an office, a very business casual office setting. Khakis or Dockers light in color, like a light blue polo or button-down tee, hair parted at the side, and glasses that makes him look very unassuming. It's a rather disarming appearance, but what is most frightful about him is his unassuming and nebulous size. Duke is 6'9" and around 300 pounds, and though he seems to maintain not much in the way of shape, he definitely carries a shadow behind him.
And the four of you surround this figure, as I said. Max clearly have busted up his limbs, caught for a simple crime within Vera's club. Trying to feed. Without permission. Max, you caught him dancing with some young girl for a while, and you locked eyes with him early on. He obviously had no idea you were there, and he seemed to be rather alone. And just as he was going in for what seemed to be a kiss, what you expected to happen did, and he dipped from her lips, and he met her neck instead. But he didn't get far before your hand grasped his shoulder, and he was pulled free.
Max lights a cigarette, and then immediately puts it out between the eyes of this guy.
When you light it, before you even reach to do so, to burn it, he immediately flinches at the flame coming out of the lighter. But then when you approach, there's a primal fear. You watch as his eyes crawl. Sure, you felt this before. You all still feel it to some mild degree. But him, there's an instant panic, one that he's not familiar with, and it's clear. Ugh, God, fuck, bitch!
I put out a Cuban cigar for him.
Clearly wants something a little bit spicier.
What is your name?
Oh, God, does it...
The lady asked you a question, Freshlick.
Okay. Grant. Just call me Grant.
What did the sign above the door say?
Succubus Club.
I look right at Max, shake my head no.
His eyes widen as they dart from you over to the man, a creature over his shoulder.
Looks to me like you got too many unbroken collarbones.
What did the sign, as you came in the door, say?
I didn't see a sign.
And therein...
You may wits insight if you would like.
Oh, is he lying? Oh.
As he's attempting his best to lie.
Oh.
2 successes for him.
Okay.
Everybody can make a wits insight if you
I only
like.
got the 1 success on that.
Let's see what others draw.
I can just force persuade him.
That's also incredibly true. Sean, you know he's bullshitting. And Sean, you're the only one who knows he's bullshitting.
And I would know that Sean
The
would
rest.
know. And I looked at Sean.
Yeah. Sean looks up from fiddling with this cigarette and just says, "So you're admitting to being an idiot then?"
Yeah, that's what I'm admitting to. I'm an idiot. Fucking big dumb.
So you can't read, even though you saw
made a
it.
mistake.
Okay.
Saw what?
That sign, man, mate. You.
Vera closes in the
Come on,
gap
Max.
of space. Just this
Yep, you just
looming
step
figure.
forward. Sure. The
Do
clacking
you
of
think
your
I'm a
heels.
joke?
No, I don't think you're a joke. No,
Who do you answer to?
no one anymore.
Wonderful. Then I don't have to explain to anyone why I'm about to teach you a lesson. The sign above the door reads, "Look, do not touch. You have not asked permission. You hunt in my grounds, our grounds. When you touch, I assure you can't do it again. Take his hand, Max."
Yeah.
You got it, boss.
Wait, whoa, that's a little much.
Yeah.
Take my hand.
It'll grow
Did it.
back, right?
And so he kind of protests ever so slightly, a burble of words that are a mix of please and there's got to be another way kind of come forward. But how long do you give him, and what exactly does Max end up doing as he begins to plead?
As he begins to plead, Max just leans in and says, "Shut up, mushmouth," and punches him straight in the face.
You are welcome to make a strength plus brawl check. He is not going to have an opportunity to resist or dodge, so you're rolling against a difficulty of 1.
That would be strength plus ball.
Brawl, yes, sir.
I'm not going to bother.
Okay, so
for
you
this.
crack him you punch him right in the teeth. A couple teeth get loose. One even falls out as he just kind of spittles forward. You can hear the deafening crack of his jaw.
I step forward, pick up one of his limp, broken arms, and pull a machete forth from beneath my leather trench coat.
Please, just God, I'll do anything. Listen, do you want a boon? A boon? I can owe you a boon. That's something.
I kind of want some of his blood.
Oh. Well, I imagine we could simply juice his hand for it.
Oh, yeah. Go on then.
There's gonna be plenty of blood to go around.
Oh, God.
Max drags him over to a crate, slaps his hand down on the crate, and unceremoniously pulls out his machete and hacks off the hand.
Oh, would Max could probably make it a single clean swipe if he so chose. Is that what he chooses to do? Is there like a mercy to it?
Yeah, a single swipe.
A single swipe. And so with a very swift motion, he even tries to, thinking maybe he'll count to 3 or something, or tries to attempt to say a word, but escapes his throat before the machete comes down. You can.
Max actually goes, "Okay, on 3," and then just immediately cuts it off.
So he goes, "Okay," and then before it cuts through, you can feel it cleave. You keep that machete sharp, and this is what it's for. Even though there's a little resistance when you hit bone, your strength is beyond that of any mortal, and a clean cut goes as the hand just kind of flops on and like loosely onto the box it's on, and he falls back onto his back, clutching at his now opened wound. You can see the kindred vitae oozing slowly forth, covering and slicking his forearm in it. He does not bleed like a mortal. And And at that opportunity, you have blood pouring from his nub, a blood pouring from the hand that drew forth, and him screaming on the ground as it's smearing now on the concrete floor.
Sean, turns behind him and picks up one of those small white plastic cups and kind of just scoops up some of the blood, sniffs it.
Like a red Solo cup.
This is grim. Useful, though. I just scoop. I plop the hand. I try and stuff the hand in there.
Yep, and in the background, he is just screaming.
Vera is so embarrassed you're drinking from a Solo cup. In her.
I'm not drinking. I'm just looking.
He eventually, with his feet, kind of pushes himself up against the wall and clutches his arm. And the screaming eventually stops. He just kind of closes his eyes and he bites his lips and just starts to just focus and try to keep his temper or his pain to himself.
Cup of blood. Used to be soup.
You really are entirely classless.
Yeah.
I think Duke would probably move himself across the room to the wall where the boy is standing. How bad does it hurt?
What do you fucking think?
Listen, cursing in front of women is very uncouth.
And taking off my fucking hand is?
Eventually necessity overtakes you. We understand. We were once there as well. And of the consequences, this is probably the lightest form. Consider yourself lucky.
He just looks up and he meets your gaze with an incredibly pained look. And you imagine if he was mortal, he might even be sobbing at this point. But the dulled pain has prevented him from going that far. But still, as he meets your eyes, and then he looks past you and sees Vera and Max and Sean fiddling with a cup ever so mindlessly in the background. He looks up and he eventually looks back to you, Duke, and just kind of nods his head. Yeah, okay. I'm glad he didn't kill me. Fine.
You understand that you will probably also have to deal in Boone as well. That this is only a mild warning, and you've taken from us. I anticipate that this should be easy enough for you. Miss Vera, do you agree that this would probably suit our needs best?
I suppose so. I trust you in matters of the usual.
Very well. Max, Sean, do you think that this should be suiting as well?
Whatever Vera says. Listen, kid. Nothing personal. Just keep it in your pants next time.
Yeah. Sure.
Then I believe that just a minor boon is fine for now. You seem to have understood the consequences and, well, you're taking this one on the chin.
He just kind of bites his lip and looks down at himself and just gives you a subtle nod.
I need to hear you say that you understand.
Okay, I understand. I owe you a boon as payment for my mistakes. Got it.
Understood. Well, this was easy. Should we send him along his way then? This is never the area that I excel at.
I look him up and down. How does he look?
Other than his missing hand and the blood on his clothes, he's a kindred. He'll be fine.
Stand up.
There's a moment of hesitation, but when he realizes there is no opportunity to be even questioning your orders, he quickly scrambles using the wall as his balance. He presses his back up against it and
Gather
scoots
yourself.
up.
You're a kindred. Embarrassing. And you can't walk out of this club looking like that.
You gotta change your clothes.
I'll go find you something.
Thanks.
I still did not get your name, kindred, who now...
Grant.
Grant.
Well, that's appropriate, because she just granted you mercy.
He looks at you for a moment. The stare lingers, and then a forced laughter falls out of his lips.
Yeah, that's right. That was a good joke.
Yeah.
You laugh.
Yeah.
I'd say it was subpar at best.
Nobody asked you.
You are without a sire.
Oh, I have a sire. He's not responsible for me, so it doesn't matter.
So you are responsible for you.
Yeah. I made a mistake. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry. I didn't.
I want you to stop being a prick.
I made a mistake. I didn't mean it.
You did mean it. And it was a mistake.
I didn't know it would be a mistake.
You can go out the back. Sean will meet you from upstairs with what I no doubt is a pair of holy jeans.
He kind of just gives you a nod and brushes past you, making his way, getting confused for a minute, looking for where the back door exit would be, eventually stumbling his way out. And
Before he goes, I simply say, you're welcome back here. As long as you read the sign.
got it. And he just walks after like a couple of head nods. And off he goes.
Max will follow him right up to the door and just sort of lean in and say,
I'll be watching you, kid.
Oh, great. Great. I will be sure to not enter your territory or domain again, I promise.
Okay, no hard feelings. Hit the road.
You kind of just like slap him on the back and
Yep.
send him on his way. He kind of stumbles forward and looks back at you with this just disgusted, confused look, and then just puts his head down and walks away. Sean, at this point, you make your way outside, catch him on the side of the by the door, and I'm assuming you just kind of hurriedly hand him some clothing
I
before
just
he makes
like
his way to the
it's the
street.
most unkempt bundle of clothes I just grabbed together. I shove them into his chest. It's like I point at his hand. You'll heal that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
How do you do that?
I don't know.
Well, you're no fucking use then, are you?
And he just kind of gives you a very confused look as well, and just takes the clothes and starts changing right in front of you. Well, thanks for the stuff, I guess.
You
I
are
guess I'll
very
be
welcome.
seeing you.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait.
Bye.
What? Oh, and he just confused, and you kind of bow and spin on your heel and make your way back as he stands there for a minute. We see him over your shoulder as he grows a little bit further distant. And we cut back down to the bottom floor of the club, where Sean eventually makes his way down the stairs. And the four of you are here not only for your typical weekly gathering of making sure all the numbers, of course, are in order for your club, something Duke is exceptionally good at. But on top of that, you're expecting a visitation tonight. You received word a few nights ago that the Thin Blood Primogen wishes to speak with the Drac Pack, and tonight would be the night that he'd be arriving, though you weren't given a time.
A special thank you to our seasoned sponsor, The Awkward Company, who helps creators build a brand through physical products. Not only do they provide knowledge and access to various manufacturers, but they work with creators to help cultivate their ideal product. And if they can't make it, they'll connect you with the people who can. So visit their online store, cuteandawkward.com, where you can check out their plushies and enamel pins, all of which are much more adorable than our kindred, and where you can begin the conversation for your branding today. If you'd like more information or simply have questions, you can reach out at partner@cuteandawkward.com.
Miss Vera, before we get into matters of importance, I have to say that I appreciate that you choose not to humiliate the young. It means a lot to me.
Well, humiliation is the lowest form of pleasure.
From my immediate understanding of simple methodology, hostility and violence is a result of humiliation.
I would agree.
We do not want to debase them too far.
A lesson is a lesson. There are worse things than death.
I would be inclined to agree.
Tell me about it.
I look over at the man bat in the room.
He's cleaning his machete.
Tell me, has anyone checked on the girl?
She was fine. He didn't actually manage to get anything in, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yes, I do. And the numbers?
You're right. Well, allow me just a moment. I'll set up as Sean arrives. And you'll see Duke step over to a desk and sort of start laying things out.
Sean meanders into the room as you finish kind of laying out the papers and begin going over the numbers. And as expected, things are going rather well, keeping your resources at a firm 3. And Sean,
everything
please.
Appears, at least on the surface, exceptionally comfortable. We're staying at just par enough that we do not rouse suspicion from authorities or anyone else. As you might understand, I do believe that we need to continue lining up more artists for the future, just because cycling through, repetitiously so, may result in a slimming of funds, if you understand.
Yes, of course. Aye. Another artist, huh? How soon would we need to have another show?
We're safe for the month as far as I've checked. The artist seems to be clearing very well, and we have many interested buyers. That being said, cold feet is a thing, and we should line someone up for next month.
Okay. We will see what we can wrangle up. The club is usually full of want-to-be artists, yes? They don't have to be good. They just have to show up.
As the two of them are talking, Max is cleaning up the blood from the crate, the floor, the machete. He's using a sponge, which he is then squeezing into a dirty Ziploc plastic bag.
Just getting all the kindred vitae, and you have a like you said, a Ziploc bag that has a bit of an orange-yellow tinge to it, closer and thicker at the bottom and much harder to see through. Maybe your 10th or 11th time using this one in particular, but there are no holes yet, so it's still valuable. And Sean, as you wander in, does Sean give too much of a rat's ass about the business end of this club, or is that something he tends to avoid?
He leaves them to it. He doesn't fully understand it, like most things, so he's just gonna wait until they're done and need to talk to him about something and smoke.
Eventually, the numbers certainly clean themselves up, and everything as I said, Vera looks good, and getting somebody to book for the events of next month shouldn't be that big of a deal. But after they're all done, it's obvious. Sean, you said you'd wish to speak with them about something.
Is
that what you said? Or
I don't think so.
Incorrectly. Oh, that's fine.
Vera has something to say to Sean then.
Please.
The Primogen is coming.
Oh, yeah. I heard.
I suspect you would be the one that knows when.
Am I supposed to? Like, it's not organized. I haven't spoken to him in a few months. Like, I haven't seen him.
Vera stares with just statue-like deadpan.
So, my question to you then is, if the 4 of you are down here, do you have anybody on the upstairs that would come report to you if somebody's looking for you? Do you have a retainer that you hang out up there, or is it just you eventually get word?
Well, Vera has like her driver,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Not her ghoul.
Right.
It's not her ghoul, but it is her driver. He probably keeps the door. Valet.
Sure. So just like some employees, a valet, and maybe some personal security that isn't Max.
Security,
sure.
yeah.
So it's around that time then when you get frustrated with Sean that you can actually hear footsteps as the door to the back to the club opens up, and you can actually hear the music clearer for a little moment before the door slams and gets mute again, and you can hear what sounds like kind of heavy, slow footsteps making their way downstairs. For just a rather large, one of your regular security guards is peering around. Clearly, you can't see into the room that you're currently in. There's a bunch of different rooms down here. This is where you kind of do your more illegal business. I'm not sure if you'd want him to see any of the blood, or if they're used to seeing blood.
If I hear feet coming, I will
You step
immediately
out.
step into the hallway. Yeah.
Stepping out then, as he makes his way down stairs, is greeted by you immediately. He's, "Oh, Vera, somebody's here looking for you. Someone by the name of Mr. Larson." Now you would know immediately the Primogen, Thin Blood Primogen's name is Robert Larson.
Ask and he shall receive. And I just flutter a hand, be like, "Go away."
Then he just turns and leaves.
And I open the door again. They've arrived.
Yay.
Shall we?
What's the play, boss?
Be nice and see what they'd like. We don't often get Primogen in the club.
They coming down here, we going up there.
Well, let's let them choose,
I'll go get him.
Sean, you're going to be the one that makes your way up the stairs then?
Yep.
As you meet with the mass of sweating bodies and dancing people and the deafening music of that fills this place, you make your way towards the entrance where anybody who's looking to meet with you in a more business-oriented level tends to wait. And you can actually see him. He's leaning up actually against a wall. He's having light conversation with one of the door folk. Just seems to be having a general chuckle. Doesn't recognize you right away as you pour through the people, but eventually as you get within like 5 or so feet of him, he sees you, finishes up the conversation, and gives you a wave. And he pushes himself up against the wall. "Sean, it's been a while. It's good to see you." And he reaches out a hand.
Sure. I very quickly grasp the hand, squeeze it, and then let go.
Yes, and as he lets go, he looks almost beyond you for a minute and then looks back to you. The rest of your coterie.
Yeah, do you want the 5-star treatment, or just want a quiet place to talk?
What would be the most private?
Oh, most private? Blood room. Let's go.
Blood, and you turn around and walk and...
Used to just be the basement, but there was an accident.
I won't ask any further for fear of getting yourselves into trouble. And he just keeps his mouth shut and follows you as you lead him past everybody and back down the stairs. You can all hear the footsteps making their way down before Sean walks in with Robert Larson behind him. To give you an idea of what this man looks like, he's incredibly plain. He's got ruffled brown hair, a scraggly brown beard, a little bit more color to his skin as he's a thin blood, and he's wearing just a plain brown jacket, white t-shirt, and blue jeans. He also wears a wedding ring on his finger. He steps in and sees each of you and gives you each a nod and says, "Good to see you, the Drat Pack as a whole," and he chuckles.
The blood room, really? I gesture for us to find a more comfortable, private place as we are just finished cleaning this up. I imagine there's a proper conference room of some kind that's maybe a little loungy.
Ambiance and a little bit more music and some plush furniture. Not your business room that you also maybe kill people in if you have to.
Precisely. I look at Sean with the eyes.
He looks into your eyes like, "You heard what I saw? You heard what I said? That's worrying."
He walks into the room and into this more lush, kind of extravagant. Everybody takes their seat. Does everybody sit down, or does Max stand? Does Duke stand? Does Sean stand? Does anybody get comfortable, so to speak?
Max actually, on the way into the meeting room, makes a little stop at his bar fridge and he puts the kindred vitae that he collected in there and pulls out just a little blood bag, sticks it with a straw like a juice box, and he's basically walks into the room and sort of leans up against the far wall, probably behind where Vera's going to sit.
Duke would likely sit last.
Sean,
lumps himself into a chair and feels it roll on the wheels a little bit and looks uncomfortable, but is probably feels quite comfortable.
I lounge on something at a proper 45-degree angle.
Exactly, with, like you said, Max kind of standing behind you. And as you all take kind of your positions, as it were, The thin-blooded primogen, Mr. Larson, kind of wanders in, struts around on the kind of in the center of the room for a little bit, nervously keeps his hands together, kind of looking at each one of you for a little while before he kind of uncomfortably and stiffly sits on a nearby chair, adjusts in it a few times before eventually just kind of gives up and accepts that he's never going to be fully comfortable, before he kind of takes a deep breath and looks out to all of you.
As he takes the deep breath, Max makes a very loud slurping sound, like the end of a juice box. He finishes off his blood bag.
Mr. Larson, you seem uneasy. Is there anything that I can do to make you more comfortable?
No, I don't think there is, but I appreciate the offer. I just want to start by thanking you for allowing me your time. I know I'm a primogen and all, but still, nights are precious to all, and I appreciate you allowing me just a sliver of your attention. I'd rather not. There's a reason I've chosen the four of you for this particular thing, but before we get down there, have you heard of the rumors of the prince's missing ghoul before?
Unfortunately, yes.
Just kind of looks to the other three. May not even get a response from the other three, but
Nod.
a nod from Duke. Sean looks bored. That's fine.
A shrug from Max,
Gotcha.
and more juice box sounds.
Yeah, well, good then. I won't have to run down the whole thing. She's more or less written off the ghoul at this point. However, let's just say I've discovered where the ghoul has gone, and before it gets out to anybody else, I would like some help dealing with this missing ghoul. And I'm coming to you for a number of reasons, but most importantly, the ghoul was found only 2 blocks away from here, within your territory. So, I come offering a deal. I don't want to bring this up with the Primogen Council for a bunch of different reasons, and I don't think the prince needs to hear about this quite yet. If what my whispering birds have told me are true, the ghoul may no longer be, walking. And that might get the prince rather upset.
As in he's got no legs or he's dead?
And he just kind of gives you a pointed finger at that second remark.
Oh.
So let me get this straight. You're asking us to, do you a little favor that you don't want the prince to find out about?
I'd like you to investigate the crime scene within your own territory without having to go to the sheriff or one of the hounds first.
No need for all of that.
I'll keep...
There's a mild excitement on Duke's face as he seems to purse his fingers together.
It has been a while since we've done anything other than proper business. We might.
This wouldn't be for the Camarilla proper, so to speak. It's more of a me with you sort of.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be anything proper about this setup. I think us sticking our nose into this is a good way to get it cut off.
There are inherent risks, of course.
And
Should you be seen near the body, if what I'm told is true, implications and so forth.
And what do you gain?
I'd like to know what the hell happened first.
Why? Why not just handle it personally? Why bring in another party at all?
Sounds to me like he could use a fall guy if things go wrong.
I nod to Max.
Well,
It does seem rather obvious and telling.
I am no guy. So, she kind of looked at him like, I want to know what you gain from knowing where the ghoul went. Do you fear that you may also fall privy to such activity?
He catches himself a few times, almost tries to start a sentence and the thought changes, start it again and the thought changes, almost in real time as you watch it happen, before he just bites his lip and pulls his finger to his mouth. Such is the nature of our business, right? Everything has some sort of personal twist to it. While I am a primogen, I am still a thin blood. And that unfortunately comes with some baggage. And not the necessary connections that, say, someone like a Ventrue Primogen, or should I say the Ventrue Prince would have. Or a Toreador Sheriff.
Yes.
But yeah, there's more to it than just that. And if shit goes south, it definitely wouldn't be bad to have somebody else there taking the fall. But I don't think that's gonna happen.
You said it is in our domain.
That's the danger.
And I kind of look around to all of them like, why did we not know about this?
Sean just puts his hands up.
I just kind of make eyes at everybody. Yeah, because like Sean's our street rat.
We have been rather busy inside the last few months. Business has been picking up, and, well, you can understand how time sort of slips away.
Yeah, that.
And it wouldn't look good if the Princess Ghoul's dead body ended up in your domain. I could go to the prince and it would fall on your lap.
Mr. Larson, we have to be forward and honest. You've brought enough to us, and I believe that none of us here respond kindly to an open threat.
He shakes his head. Not a threat. Just showing you I thought of coming to you first.
Oh, how very thoughtful of you. Oh, and where are my manners? Here, can I offer you something? He pulls a bag of cold blood from his coat.
He politely puts his hand up with a clear look of disgust on his face. No, thank you.
Oh, don't like it bagged, huh? I ain't fancy. I'd eat scabs if I could get away with it.
He cringes a little bit at that and then kind of gazes back.
He's
Oh,
being
that's
honest.
nasty.
Now,
Yeah.
now, say we do this grand favor for you. What do we get in return for such, other than clearing our name of what currently is just your words?
To take the credit and reward for finding the missing ghoul, and whatever benefits or boons she bestows upon you for doing so. I don't want the credit. I just want the information. I just want to know what happened to the body.
I turn for the first time, rather gracefully on the chaise, and look at the rest of the crew, and I say, I think that this could be the opportunity for us to say, ask for new grounds. Business has been going rather well. And a proper art gallery would make what we do much easier.
It would certainly give me more work, but I have no problem with pushing numbers. They're fickle things, but they're honest and they stay consistent, unlike people, unfortunately.
I'm easy, boss. If that's your call, that's the play.
Okay.
Don't think I've got a choice, really, do I?
I look at Sean and I say, of course you do.
If I really had a choice, I'd be upstairs at the moment.
We're getting there. Business is important. And I kind of look at him like, we have to do this, and you have to be here.
Yeah, okay, sure. Then my choice is to help the fella out.
It's appreciated, Sean. It's good to see you've made something of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I guess we'll see. Cheers.
There's a heavy sigh as he looks back around. As far as I know, the crime scene ain't been found by the cops yet. They'll have time. Catch it before they find the body. Somebody's gonna find it eventually.
Well, I look at the people. Vera does not do street work. She kind of turns around to the gang and looks at Sean and Max and goes, shall we retrieve a body?
Yeah.
Whatever you say.
We shall. Come on, Max.
Wait a moment, please. Mr. Larson. This might be an area of my expertise. See, to understand the art, you must understand the artist. And this might be valuable for me to go. Maxwell, calm now. I've not inspired anything such as this.
He does
I just understand.
a way with a crime scene. He does have a way with a crime scene.
That he does. Does.
I would just like to view the scene first. Anyone who has an aptitude for leaving a mark, they tend to do so as a signature. And they may not leave it upon the body, but they may leave it at the scene.
Sean almost retches as he finishes sentence.
Sean, I have a new shipment coming in this evening. Would you prefer to stay and move it?
I've got my mates for grunt work. I like hanging out with Max, you know?
Fair enough, kid. Come on. I guess
I look at you retching and nod okay, yeah.
Mr. Larson will walk over to Duke and pull a piece of kind of just folded paper out of his pocket, look around for a pen, eventually have one handed to him before he begins to write the address down. Scribbles it as quickly as he can, folds it, and places it in Duke's palm hurriedly. Thank you again. Drac Pack, right? That's what you go by.
Yeah, like the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Yeah. They do call us.
Wait, that's the
this.
thing?
Oh, he's so young.
Oh,
it hurts so much.
I thought
I'll
because
leave you to it.
makes Fang sign with two fingers. Okay.
I smile to breathe some fresh air in the room, and I go, "Come, let us go out the front. Maybe I could offer you a proper drink or smoke."
And he gladly is swept away with your arm, not over. I know you don't touch, but you kept behind him with a distance and usher him up the stairs, leaving the three of them behind for a while until you eventually all make your way up front. And he declines any need for a drink, blood or otherwise, and seems content with leaving you here. He does say that he will return tomorrow evening with hopes that you might have a little more information for him.
Of course.
He smiles and nods. Thank you again. I just appreciate it. And he scurries out the front door.
Okay, fellas, let's go check out a crime scene. Try not to get too excited there, Duke.
Understood. Shouldn't be a problem. I've got a good grasp on things these days.
Sean, you tag along as well, kind of awkwardly from behind, I imagine.
Oh yeah, does not walk next to them.
And Vera, are you staying at the club?
Oh, I have zero reason to attend a crime scene.
I figured as much.
I have no reason to be there. No, I would definitely assure that the situation with the girl is probably good for the night and just be where I'm supposed to be.
Sure. Where you're led is simply, like I said, about 2 blocks to the south of the club. You can clearly see the neon lights of the club from where you stand above the people that walk the sidewalk and the mass of people talking and the honking horns. It's still there. And here you're looking at a 3-story apartment, typical kind of brick style building of 3 floors. And the address specifically speaks of the very first floor. Now, how do you just kind of hit back alleys and just kind of meander your way down the blocks that way? Obviously, Max can't stand on the streets, but he could go invisible and just kind of walk.
I'd probably leave it to Max to guide us there.
Sure.
Unseen passage, of course.
Yep. Staying nice and quiet and hidden away. Sean is the one that blends in the best with the local populace, but eventually you make your way to the building. No issues along the way, and you're greeted with the front door, the stairs that lead up from the sidewalk, and windows that surround all the way to the back, where obviously there's also a back entrance. So upon does Duke plan on heading into this building by himself first, or how does what's the approach here for heading into this place?
Duke may be daunting, but he's not much of a combat specialist, if it were to come to that. He would allow the more capable figures to move in first.
Okay. So Sean or Max?
Mm-hmm.
Max will just take the lead.
Max will just take the lead. Do you go completely invisible?
Mm-hmm.
Make way for the front door, a window? What's Max's style of entrance to an apartment place?
I would say directly through the front door. It's
Head to
easiest.
the front door. Door is, as expected, it's locked. As you move over to it and press down the handle and push, is no way. It seems to be no way in. However, you have a larceny ability. Do you have a lot of points in larceny?
No, just one.
Just one. You could also simply give it a hard shoulder and just.
I think
bash.
that fits Max's style the best.
Okay.
So just push
Strength.
open the door.
Yeah, you just kind of lean into it and give me a strength brawl check as you just kind of give it a hard nudge. With 4 successes, it doesn't take too much. You can actually hear the creaking of the wood before it all snaps and a couple of splinters fall by your feet, but the door kind of just creaks open. You're granted with what's instantly like a living room that leads into a hallway. Down at the end, splits off into a kitchen and a bedroom and maybe a bathroom, and that's about it. But immediately, the living room itself seems untouched. No tables are flipped, no immediate signs of violence, paintings and pictures still on the wall, and a TV that is off, flat screen, be hanging on the wall across from the couch. And that's the very first thing that you see when you step in. All the lights are off. What does Max do as he busts in? And what does Sean and Duke do as they see the door kind of crack open and begin to slide open?
First of all, any smell of blood.
Give me a wits awareness check. As you step into the living room and you step into the dark, kind of cool, damp, stale air of an apartment that's been left alone for a few more days than normal, you take a moment and you just take a deep breath. And as the air fills your lungs and you allow the smells to kind of penetrate, you actually do pick up that brassy copper taste on the back of your tongue, just gently there. It's not in this room, certainly, but there's definitely still blood in the air.
I'm going to try to follow that.
Okay. Duke and Sean, as he begins to explore the apartment itself, do you stay outside or do any of you make your way into the front door now that it's clearly opened?
I actually look to Sean. I'm thinking that I'm going to let Max just sort of scope out the sitch before I come in. And Sean is always a character of interest to me. So I'm kind of utilizing his normality to help me blend here. But I think I might enjoy having a few words.
Sure. As the camera pulls away from Max, as he makes his way down the hallway where the smell of blood is clearly coming from, we actually turn the camera to see Duke maybe awkwardly and stiffly staring at the building, patiently waiting for things to come, and takes a couple of quick looks over to Sean before making a decision to turn to Sean.
Sean is visibly uncomfortable as he feels Duke's eyes go to him. So Sean is trying to act natural and kind of leans up against the wall just next to the broken door, kind of using his bony butt to hide the smashed lock, and just like checking the street.
And whether it's because it's New York, people don't care, or something along those lines, there are occasional people who look over and just like, what the hell's happening over there? But meander by without caring much or pulling their cell phones.
Sean, you seem to be experiencing a bit of unrest. Is there something wrong?
I don't know. It's just a lot has happened. So like, I'm sure you're used to it, being around so long. And Sean just keeps on flubbing, and every time like he wants to move and look Duke in the face, he like just checks the street again. It's how can you keep so cool in like everywhere? It's
Well, Sean, you have to understand that when you've seen the dregs and absolute worst of humanity, there's not much else that can really shake you to the core. Plus, we're really the monsters in the middle of the night. Humans are not so bad. They can be, but they do not have the same abilities you or I. It's not so frightening when you think about it and put it on a grander scale. Certainly there are more things that go bump in the night, but I think there are worse things to the human world than kindred. It's mostly amongst themselves. And I walked that world for a long time. Sean, you must understand it's not for everyone. I would have been locked away for a very long time. But my sire, he found me an interesting case and brought me here a while ago, before you were even a gleam in your mother's eye.
Of course.
But I mostly meant with me. Is there something about me that unsettles you?
I think probably anyone looking has noticed that the longer Duke talks, the more fidgety Sean gets.
The camera probably is at the base of the stairs, looking up at the two of you on that high-rise platform near the door, as there is no even an inch of movement in Duke's posture when he finally turns to talk to you. When he speaks, there's just a stillness that is unnatural. In the way he speaks about himself and his past, it seems that might have just been a part of who he was even before this change. But as you said, Sean continues to almost back away a little bit, realizing there's nowhere to go. His hands get fidgety. He begins to look at his fingers more. His legs begin to twitch. Duke would even notice this.
You're worried, Sean. That's not necessary, I assure you. With just my mere size, I could close the gap very quickly, and my arms could embrace you in such a way that you would be rather uncomfortable, even for a kindred. But I want to let you know that if those are my intentions, you will know immediately.
Yeah. Should we check on Max?
It's probably safe. It's been a few minutes now.
As the two of you turned, maybe check on Max in an uncomfortable fashion. Sean, maybe visible relief and tension rolling off of your shoulders as you move away. We find our way back down the hallway. First, Max had peeped into the kitchen, took a few steps, and realized this too had been undisturbed. In fact, there was a fine layer of dust almost over everything. Continuing to the bathroom, the shower curtains are open, and it does look like that the soap bottles had been opened and the shampoo bottles unopened, but again, it had been at least days, the shower being dry. It wasn't until you got to the bedroom where that blood smell became the strongest. The door, of course, is locked, however. But I imagine Max doesn't give too much of a crap at this point, and he just simply shoulders his way in. The door just gives way. Falls forward, clatters with the back wall and bounces, and as the door opens and that rush of wind rushes forward, we see Max take another deep breath, this time really tasting the blood, not only because you can smell it, but because it's directly before you. The scene is horrific to almost any normal person's standards. There on the bed is the body of a young man, Asian, by the name of Ben. He was Prince Panhard's ghoul. You only know that it's him, not because of his body or his markings. No, unfortunately his head is off of his shoulders. His arms and legs detached from where they were, pulled maybe 6 inches from their sockets of the body, and the torso lay perfectly in the center of the bed. The head itself sits at the top, right above the bed rest, balancing precariously, leaning back up against the wall, where before him, you can see a giant loop of blood drawn like a halo on the wall around his head. But the most disturbing aspect of that is the top of his head has been completely removed. Precariously. It wasn't a bash job, it wasn't a hack job. It looks as though the crown of the head was popped off and is nowhere to be seen. Around the halo on the wall is words written in a language you do not understand. But you've been around for a while, and if you were to guess, they look like runes of some sort.
Pull out my notepad, do a little sketch. Wish we could use technology so I could just take a picture of this with a phone, but God.
As you're sketching and maybe even grumbling to yourself, that's when Duke and Sean actually kind of step in and you're greeted with that gruesome scene.
Whoa. Hey, don't disturb nothing yet. I gotta get this down.
You do this.
Ooh.
Yeah. Try not to pop too big a boner there, Duke.
The fuck does that mean?
Forgive me for admiring another's work.
Yeah. And, hey, kid, just step back, all right? Let us deal with this.
But, no, seriously, though. Did you do this?
What, me?
Yeah.
I just got here. It was like this when I arrived.
Sean, this is clearly an elaborate setup, and, well, Max drinks blood off of the floor. You don't think that he has the capacity to do something like this, do you?
I got the capacity. Sure, I could do this. Why would I
Yeah, he's a
want...
beast.
Yeah, look at the blood. It's congealed. How long...
Yeah, as you take a look, actually, go ahead and make me an intelligence medicine check to see if you can maybe see how long the body's been sitting here.
Sure, I'm going to make a play that Max is something of an expert in congealed blood, given that is the sort of thing that he consumes.
I'm happy to give you a +1 to that roll for a specialty representation in gross blood.
Lovely. And sorry, what were the two stats?
Intelligence and medicine.
Well, I certainly don't have any medicine.
Does anybody in this coterie
I
have
got
medicine?
1 dot.
I mean, you do mess with bodies, so it kind of makes sense.
And you say +1?
Yes, sir. As you kind of dip your finger into it, and it's already kind of stiff and gooey, and you kind of pull it up, and it drags for a while before you play with it in your fingers and maybe even put it on your tongue. You would put this blood at least like between 3 and 6 days old, somewhere around that time.
I'll convey that to the others. Yeah, he's been here a little while. What about these rune things? This look like anything you recognize there, Duke?
Does anybody have any marks in occult?
I'm not even going to bother asking you, kid.
But I can try to make a check. I've got a fair amount.
It would
of
be intelligence occult.
Yeah.
Not a kid.
2 successes.
Again, much like Max derived, they look like runes, more certainly like runes than anything else. It doesn't look like Latin or any obscure language.
Nothing that I'm immediately familiar with. Certainly a purpose. Do you mind if I peer over the body?
Nah, I'm pretty much done here. He folds up the notebook, just sort of steps back.
Yep, claps it shut, tucks it in a pocket. Duke steps forward. Duke, what exactly here are you looking for?
I'm looking for signs of damage to the body.
Okay.
I'm looking for any sort of signature that may have been made
You're
by
looking for like struggle,
a killer.
wounds, a fight, something along those lines. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Intelligence, medicine. And I would even, before you make that roll, much like his +1 because he's dealt with like old blood, this is something you're more on the familiar side with, so I'm also happy to give you a +1 onto this roll.
Okay. For what it's worth, I do have a specialty in investigation for criminal scenes and criminology.
Oh, then absolutely use then you're welcome to use that.
Okay, thank you. 8 successes.
So the critical, the messy critical simply represents your absolute, your inability to stop yourself from disturbing the crime scene. You're too enamored with the art itself where you're lifting limbs, you're picking it up and examining how things went. The information you gather, however, is that the limbs, head, all that stuff was obviously severed post-death. It's clear that there was no struggle. They were all too precise and too clean of cuts and dismemberments. But as you continue to search the body, pull off the clothes, look for struggles around maybe the neck or bruises or stab wounds, you find 0.
Mm-mm.
It looks like there was absolutely 0 struggle here. As though they willingly accepted what happened to them. Caught sleeping and maybe instantly killed. But even then, there's no quick cut to the neck where you would say that'd be a death blow.
I looked at the eyes. Are there like signs of suffocation or anything like that? No abrasions on the wrist, anything?
No drowning, no bruises around the neck to indicate suffocation. No stabs in the chest.
This seems rather motivated, almost like a crime of passion, to say the least. Well, someone had a very clear goal. This was done by design. Definitely premeditated. They took some liberties to alter things post-mortem. As you can see by these wounds and incisions, this was done very cleanly. It's something that occurred after death. There was no signs of immediate struggle. It's strange. Perhaps they were drugged. It's not something that I can immediately test. If we were to take back some hair or some blood, we might be able to run it through a lab.
Sure.
Don't you have a friend over at the hospital, Max?
Yeah, but it's not like he's a coroner or nothing. Tell me,
Certainly.
What's the significance of the top of the head being taken off there?
Well, as far as I can immediately decipher and understand, it has something to do with this halo, this mild coronation of sorts. The words of which I'm not immediately understanding, I'm guessing it's something off of the top of his head. Maybe it's knowledge he was aware of. Perhaps it's something that he took to his grave with him for certain, but for someone else it's relatively important. What that is, I cannot immediately tell. We might have to find someone who can decipher these particular words.
Question is, do we leave this body for the cops or we take it with us?
That is a fair question. You seem to be a solid read on Miss Vera. What do you think that she would do at this point? Would she retrieve the corpse, or do you believe that she would alert the authorities?
I don't think we want the cops finding out about this quite yet. Maybe best to take it with us, dispose of it, whatnot.
We're going to do dirty work for someone else.
At the very least, it might be valuable for us to determine what may have laid them so silently and without struggle.
Plus,
perhaps we can test.
We probably don't want the cops involved since our friend decided to get hands-on with all the evidence.
I'm starting to sense another set of detestment, perhaps. I've noticed for a while now, Max, that you've had an uncanny dislike for me.
I wouldn't say it's uncanny.
I'm curious, why is that? I haven't gone out of my way to bother you.
Nope, and I'm not going out of my way to bother you neither. So why don't we just leave it for now, huh?
Sure, I suppose that we can shelf this, but I believe that this should come to a halt at some point if we intend to continue working together.
You do your job, I'll do mine. We'll get along fine.
I suppose, for now.
On that line that lingers out of Duke's mouth, the camera pushes past to catch what Sean is doing during that tense conversation. I'm curious what the hell Sean is doing.
Sean is retreating from the two of them, just like staring almost bug-eyed at the two of them, and through his head he is trying to find a place to interject without drawing too much attention to himself, but he just never finds it, and is amazed at the fact that these people are debating so calmly over a dismembered body.
What's your humanity again, Sean?
I believe it is 7.
Yeah, that'd be a rough sight for someone who's at 7. So, my question then to the three of you, if you're taking the body with you, in what way would you take the body? Would you go get some tarps, wrap it up? Would you kind of just quietly lump them over your shoulder and go invisible?
I'd say that there's definitely garbage bags in the kitchen.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Grab some garbage bags in the kitchen, start piling in the pieces of the body that you can. And as we watch you kind of pile them into bags, you get like 3 or 4 different bags, and you hoist them over your shoulder. The camera kind of pulls out of the front door and just watches each of you kind of step out until you all go your separate ways. And then as Max step out, he just disappears and vanishes. And as that last scene we see for a moment, we can go to black and have our end of a first episode.
Special thank you to Kimberly and Sean Casey for sponsoring this podcast. Stitch of Fate wouldn't be possible without your incredible kindness and support. You sure know how to rouse our blood.